Oh, about seeding the test server with stuff so we could actually test things coming onto the test server if they had some idea on the tech that they would put in place.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem, and this is just always going to be the case, is that most of the game systems are crafting and economy and territory control and checking out, the levels of your characters and fighting over things, and um, all that stuff is really hard to encourage people to do any testing on if you just transfer a bunch of items over from live. I mean, if that's what we're going to do, I think that's fine. But it's just going to be the case that most of those systems don't get tested.
Yeah, like Monster Geddon.
I don't know what that. Oh yeah, Monster Geddon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we just had nobody actually fighting spawns, and so we didn't. So we never saw the behavior that the spawns were getting repopulated with too many monsters.
Yeah, and like when somebody would go into a hex and it would spawn monsters, but when they left the hex, it wouldn't despawn them or whatever.
I think the issue was like every time you killed a spawn, it basically spawned two monsters back. So you got more and more monsters as you fought more and more.
I know I lost like 7 points on my first T2 set of armor that day.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, but it'll be a good memory for later in the year.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I kept respawning in the same mob in the middle of it and just kept getting killed until my wife finally cut her way through to me so that I had a place to spawn to.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is that your permanent computer?
Yeah, it's my computer at work here.
All right, I'm just going to register you and give you a GW tag.
Cool, thanks.
I like that you're early to test this out.
Yeah, although I need to close up my office door and get actually ready to go when it gets close to 5.
What, like half the staff has done it already? They know what you're doing.
No, so he doesn't have interruptions. Mark, if you log out and back in.
Okay, we'll do. Ooh, I'm all official and stuff.
Yep. And that means I can actually figure out how to work this mumble.
It seems I have to run down to Riverbank and swipe another gold bar.
Yeah, there's a couple there.
I thought I had enough and I need one more. I see you, Hoffman.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my scavenger up. It's only at 8, and I'm trying to move it up.
Why are you moving it up?
Because there's so many benefits to actually moving your armor and everything else to make a primary gatherer.
I know I was trying to get hemp and I had Himmel down there and he's just getting cotton because he's a tier 2.
Yeah, but I mean, the speed and what you're getting, it actually works itself out. The other thing I'm trying to collect is gems, because those seem to be pretty popular right now.
Yeah, I can now do a T2 dowsing on my professor character. I got my local up to 100. Who you wanting to ask questions to, Leaf Strider?
What's that?
Leaf Strider was saying he wanted to ask some questions in a little text message off to the side.
Oh yeah, no, Leaf Strider, go ahead. We got 10 minutes.
Okay, thanks. I think they're easy. I've made my way to Riverbank, and I have, I guess, 2 questions. One is, where's the auction house? And 2 is, where does a wizard train? Because you don't seem to have a wizard trainer in there, so where are you sending people?
The auction house, there isn't one because it's not a crafting city. We actually do most of our sales up in Canis Castro, but the university can get you most of the equipment you need to get started. What we do is essentially you donate whatever you don't want, and we give you other stuff in return. And then for wizard training, you go to Hope's End, which is just half a dozen hexes north.
Okay, thank you.
Hoffman.
Now, I have what I'm afraid might be a really stupid question, but I don't know where else to ask stupid questions but here. So I'm like an 8th level wizard, and I want to be tier 2. What do I need to do to become tier 2?
So you need to get your armor feat up to 6, and you need to get the actual the
Arcane achievement up to
Yeah.
level 7.
Yep, that's what I thought, Cheeto. Yeah, so that's what you need to work through. Is your weapon needs to match your tier 2, and that's your armor and your actual attack or spell or whatever you're using.
Okay, so for wizard, that would be arcane attack, and
No, it's like your cantrips or your orisons.
do I just need one of them at level 6, or I gotta have them all at level 6?
The attacks have to be at
attacks
level
are
4. Drothar, let me. Your attacks are level 4, and then your armor needs to be at level 6. It's kind of weird.
That's interesting. Boy, I did not know that. I'm glad I asked the question. Thank you so much.
That's what we're here for. There's also classes nightly. I don't know which one. Duffy actually should be back to Clerics and Wizards. Either if it's not this week, it'll be next week. And that's on Thursday nights at 9 Eastern.
Okay, I'll try to listen in. It's a busy life, but I'll listen in if I can. Thank you.
The other thing, Leaf Strider, is any of the faculty can get you whatever equipment you need. Just let us know. The tier 1 stuff, we just hook you up. The tier 2, you got to trade for. But we have a lot of it in stock.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I've got some tier 1 and a little bit of +1 tier 1, but nothing any higher than that. If you got something higher that is available, I'll grovel at your feet. Otherwise, I'll wait for tier 2.
Nope, we do have +2 stuff. I'm actually outside. I'm not at Riverbank right now. If I can catch you a little bit later, I can get you equipment. Like I said, what we do is just donate what you don't want, and in return, we get you stuff that you do want.
Cool. Do you prefer raws or refined?
What we say to people is just donate what you can't use. We're not even worried about it. Yeah, Drothar could get you a setup. We'll get you kind of an equipment pack. So you actually have access to the company bank, or you should. So you can just donate whatever you want. We don't keep track. It's just kind of honored.
Okay, so if I donate, will you notice that I've donated, or do I need to send you a message, anything like that?
We just trust that you did. We just give you stuff. I know that's probably the wrong thing to do, and it's probably not good for our accounting system, but...
Well, I appreciate it. I was in another guild company, whatever they call it, and boy, I think that it was run by CPAs. I've never seen such accounting, and I finally said to heck with it. I felt like I was a serf just harvesting for them for eons before I would get anything, and I said enough of that.
Yeah, there are definitely certain things we need, but like if you got any hemp or torn peasant's clothes, but...
Okay, I have both. I will donate.
I was wondering who it was I saw running around there. I was on Himmel earlier. When I saw you on the road, you just went stealth and hit up real quick.
Yeah, one of the things I don't know about PvP, and I don't mean to monopolize you guys, I know you're probably living your lives doing other things, but when I encounter somebody on the road, the question is, are they hostile or are they not, and how tough are they if they are hostile? I assume if they're not red, they're not hostile, so I waved at you and went on about my business.
Yeah, some people, they have to attack you to become, well, they already have to attack you before they become red, so they can walk up to you still.
Yeah,
But
if you're their first target for a
What I was
while,
afraid
then
of.
one of the general ideas is to be faster than the people coming after you, so energetic field on like a hotkey is good.
well, most of the hostile people are already using that too. So if you don't have that, you have no chance.
Yeah, I figured that. Plus, I was also about half encumbered because I was bringing a whole load of stuff down to Riverbank, so I figured I was either dead or you were friendly.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was going to give you a boost, but then I thought if all he has to do is move through the hex border and it's gone, so I just waved and went along.
Yeah, okay, thanks. By the way, PvP, I was in a discussion with some other people earlier, not in this channel, But I'm getting the sense that PvP in the game right now today is basically only for fighters and maybe rogues, that mages and clerics kind of suck wind. Is that true?
No, there are some mages that are out there, but in order to make it work, they have to use a mechanism that's a little broken right now, the stunning mechanism, which pretty much means the person they're attacking can't do anything whatsoever to defend themselves.
Okay, but I don't know if you guys have a pipeline to the designers or Ryan or anybody, but the game is not all about just fighters. If it should be like other games where every class has a more or less equal chance of PvP, at least if the conditions are right. Like a mage ought to do fine in a range situation, but probably not in a melee.
We
Well,
have
there's
people.
We
there's
may or may not.
unfinished mechanisms in place. So right now, a lot of the spells root you in place because there's a charged gem, or there's like a charge mechanism that mages have that sort of are supposed to give them sort of like an ammunition count, and they don't have that. So they're kind of held steady in place at the moment, and that actually sort of tips it the other way to where they're weaker than melee.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. This goes all the way back to Gygax. That mages, I play a lot of tabletop. I played D&D since '78. The mage everybody always says, "Oh, they're so overpowered. When I get to 15th level, yeah, but you never can get there because you're busy dying along the way, and the sword swinger has infinite number of swings."
I wouldn't think the ammunition thing is going to be that restricting. It's just that, so before they had the you stand still while you cast, you could move around pretty much unlimited, and that made mages and archers so completely broken that nobody else could touch them.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, my main is a cleric, and I have to say that I think clerics are seriously underpowered in the game right now. I'm taking it on faith, pun intended, that they'll get better.
Well, so once you hang out at the university for a while, you'll see there's a bunch of different chats we have. I'm going to put a link for everybody to some of the previous chats with developers, and it may help you.
Okay, thanks. I mean, like on clerics, I've seen some chat where they say, use a two-handed weapon or use a bow or whatever. That's all well and good, but it doesn't improve your divine attack bonus. One of the problems, in my opinion, is that they have created new divine attacks for swords or whatever you want to use, but they don't add to a divine attack bonus, so they don't help you move up.
Actually, I run a cleric, and I do know the frustration you're running at. You want to know what the answer is? Go join a party, keep your focus out, and you'll be ranking up those focus attacks like crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring. I mean, I'm doing okay. I've got a 9th level cleric, but I have to choose my soloing very carefully. Single opponents all the time.
Yeah, I can understand that. In fact, actually, what I've done, and this has helped me a lot before they ended up introducing that, share the party kill thing, was I essentially took a greatsword. I used it to essentially knock the opponent down 90% of their health, then whip out the focus and just finish them off. It'll still count as a focus kill, not a greatsword kill.
All right, if everybody can, we're going to have to fun questions until a little bit later as we move towards the regular class.
Okay, what's the class?
Tonight we actually have a discussion with Goblinworks Chief Technology Officer, Mark Kalmes. So we're just a minute and we'll get set up. If anyone has any questions, if you want to PM them to me on Mumble, that'd be great. I'm making a list here.
Just to let everybody know, Mark is in charge basically of making the game. He's the guy that the designers report to, the programmers report to, the art staff reports to. Basically, he's the guy that runs the entire team that puts the game together. So he pretty much is the guy that's running the design of this game in a lot of ways. So you can ask lots of good questions.
Oh, we're going to have fun. Don't worry.
Lisa's talking up quite a bit.
He's more than just the technology behind the game. But that's a strong suit of his.
Oh, don't worry, Mark. Did Lisa and the gang warn you?
I heard there's a lot of rumblings in the thread. I haven't gotten full warning yet, though.
That's not even about the thread. I mean, this is just your chance to be in the spotlight or the hot seat, whichever way you want to look at it.
Sounds scary.
All right, so we will get started. I'm Hoffman from Pathfinder University. This is a Keepside chat. We have these every Wednesday. Next week's chat is actually going to be with Lee, since the new patch will be out, and we'll be working. It'll be on the test server. It'll be coming out pretty quickly for EE7, so we'll be having some good conversations with him about that. Answer our questions just before they come out. For a list of the classes, we hold them daily. It's class.pathfinderuniversity.com. And Pathfinder University is a company for new players in their first 90 days that you can join, and information at pathfinderuniversity.com. So, Mark, if you could just introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, that'd be great. We'll start there.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Kalmes. I'm the CTO of Goblinworks here. So I'm basically the chief programmer. I spend a lot of time working on technology and just making sure that servers are running and things like that. We're kind of one of 3 design chiefs with myself, Lee, and Mike Hines, all kind of coming together and make sure that we have a solid production team and make sure things are running smoothly.
And did Lisa say, like, everybody in the world reports to you? I mean, how's that work? Who are you in charge of?
Well, I mean, I'm one of the founders, and so just for convenience sake, we do have Mike and Lee report to me, but it's pretty informal. I mean, both those guys have, decades of experience. They really know what they're doing. They've been doing MMOs for a long time, and we usually try to make sure that the 3 of us agree on any decisions. If I'm out in left field and they call me on it, then I'm happy to have them change my direction. They're both really experienced guys, and we work really well as kind of a 3-person team.
Great. And you said you're one of the founders. What does that mean? How'd you get up, matched up with this group and get into Goblinworks?
Yeah, so Ryan knew me. Ryan worked for CCP for a little bit, and I also worked at CCP. I was working on the World of Darkness project in Atlanta, Georgia, and that project didn't ship, unfortunately. But Ryan knew me from there, and he knew Lisa from a long time back, and he had an idea of what he wanted to do for the game, and a really strong idea of what Pathfinder Online could be, and he pitched Lisa on it, and then called me one day and pitched me on the idea, and I got really excited about it. I mean, I really wanted to make this kind of open sandbox game, and so I jumped on board, and the 3 of us got the company started before we knew how we were going to fund anything or what the full design was going to be or anything like that.
Great. And we had this conversation with others. We are here, EE7 coming out. Where do you think we were going to be, and do you think we're past where we would be? Are we not as far? What about the production overall? How far are we?
How far are we in the total project? I think
as opposed to where you thought we'd be. Sorry.
We're tracking a little bit slower, but not too bad. We wanted to go into EE about 1.5 years into production. It would end up being 2 years. But on the flip side, our original EE plan had no PvP in it at all. It was more limited, and there wasn't enough to do when we got to that state. And so we added on a few more things at the end of 2014 in order to get to, an EE build that really had things to do. So that takes us to EE, and then I think we've done pretty good the last couple of months. I think we're still about 1 year from being really at release state. I think anywhere from the end of this year to next summer will be, what I would call like a release state of the product.
That's fair. And I saw a message, said, hey, we're going to open up to the head starters because we can handle that in the server. And then let's be real, Marchmont went down the next day, and when everybody was supposed to start. What happened?
That's fair. But, the server stability in general has been really good. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We still have hexes go down. It's still a beta product. There still can be problems on it. But overall, the server is handling the load, and we've got a lot of people, just simultaneously online playing and having a good time.
Can you give us a little insight what happened with Marchmont? I mean, I think everybody had quite the interesting day there.
Yeah, actually, that wasn't related to load. The Marchmont issue was there was a it was really weird, really strange. There was a broken resource file. So one of the tiles that wasn't even directly on Marchmont, but was around Marchmont, had an actual error in the file, and then those servers didn't start in that region that was around the broken tile. And it was true on Zog, but we didn't have anybody walk over that direction on Zog, and so we just didn't notice the problem. And once we went live, then we noticed that those servers just weren't coming up.
All right, let's talk about Zog and the test server, because there's been a lot of discussions on the forums about, hey, we should actually do more testing there, or there are things that we can do to help. I mean, what can we do?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about a little bit before this interview. We want to do a lot more with Zog. One issue we have with any of these sandbox games, a game like this, is that kind of your typical MMO where you have a test server and you just copy characters into the test server and have people try out a patch for a day or two. That can work okay, but the players will only tend to play a day, if that. They generally just look at their new stuff and then log off again. And very importantly, a huge number of systems, whether it's territory control or crafting or the auction house or anything about the economic engine in general, all that stuff tends to just not be tested in that environment. So it's really kind of tough to get good testing from the environment of just having people copy and run on the test server.
So, but how do we get around this? I mean, because I'm going to be real, Mark. I mean, it seems like the patches lately have been having harder and harder times on some of them coming out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's a couple of issues. One, we internally have had some issues with just our testing process, and we're trying to fix that up through just rearranging the team a little bit and trying to get a lot more formal about how we're doing testing. And that will fix a lot of the particular issues we've seen recently. Then there's still a larger issue of it's always going to be hard to get testing of hundreds of players doing something. So right now we're kind of looking over options. I think copying having characters copied to Zog so that they have all their stuff is an option. We've talked about seeding the auction house so that on Zog there's just all the goods in the game are constantly available for purchase in the auction house, and we give everybody a good amount of money so that it's very easy to equip yourself and start playing immediately. We're kind of looking through our range of options right now.
All right. Well, I'll tell you that the community is ready to jump in with you. We're just trying to figure out how we can do that.
Cool. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate that, and we really want to get that involvement from the community. One thing that stopped us is that we didn't have a good formal set of tests that we wanted people to go through, and we're rectifying that right now. So I think pretty shortly it'll be a lot easier for us to have the community help us test by giving out a list of actual things to test.
Great. So the other, kind of another question, we'll get you on the tech questions first, and we'll go from there. The other big tech question is about actually, what's going on with the clients, especially the Mac client. Are we ever going to get that to work? And a lot of the questions I had like curse words in there about the Mac client.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the Mac is always going to be a poor second cousin. Well, hopefully it's going to get more and more solid, but at this point in the middle of development, it's a difficult problem. The best experience in the game is always going to be to have a real kind of production video card. You don't have to have a top-end expensive video card, but all of our dev machines have $100 video cards in them. Just the experience of playing the game with just kind of a normal $100 video card is going to be drastically different than playing it with just embedded graphics. And we'll be doing a lot more effort as we get closer to release to optimize those embedded graphics, but it's expensive. It doesn't necessarily enhance the game for the rest of our player base, and so it's just not the highest priority. And then Mac has a terrible confluence of, in general, much slower and more difficult graphic drivers in that environment, and most of the Macs don't have discrete graphics cards.
So there's people saying, "Hey, my computer's blowing up from this, not being able to do it." And we were having a good discussion online last night about some people are having different experience with AMD versus Intel chips, some of those other things. Any advice so we can help you or figure out how to actually get this to run besides being windowed and fast, and when we should expect some changes?
Right. I think continuing to submit bug reports and give us information when you're having, either on the forums or just a direct bug report when you're having issues with the Mac. Definitely keep telling us that. We are gathering up all the specs for Macs that are working well and Macs that are not working well, and that'll keep advising us. We are about halfway through a iteration on optimizing, especially the memory performance for all the graphics in the game. That's our biggest issue on Mac side, is that because of the way the graphics driver works, it just kind of keels over if you load too many objects. And so I think it'll be probably E8 or E9 when we finish that iteration, and hopefully it'll take care of all the most of the acute issues of Macs just flat out not able to load the game and crashing when they try to load the game.
But how about PC clients? Because we're hearing some of the same things with them.
Oh yeah, it's the same code base from our perspective. So the main thing we have to focus on is changing all of the resources so they're dynamically loaded, and we have a real good handle on a minimal set of resources that can run at any particular time. We're totally aware that the client for marginal machines has gotten worse, and the issue there is that if your machine was marginal in the first place, it had very little graphics memory or some other issue, it probably ran okay very early in the project, especially with EE1, when all the characters you saw had you had a very limited set of equipment on them. There really wasn't any T2 stuff running around, and the total amount of outfits and races and everything else in the game just wasn't there. So as have both built more content into the client, and you're just seeing a lot more simultaneous content on the screen, both of those are really stressing the marginal computers, and we're simultaneously trying to fight that by then optimizing our side so that it hopefully takes care of the issue.
Yeah, and I, by the way, I'm not a tech person like any of these questions, but there's a lot of questions about well, are you guys still happy with Unity? Is Unity still the right answer? Should they have to go to Unity 5? I mean, is that any of these factors?
It will help some factors and it would hurt other factors. We're a small enough team that would be very difficult for us to switch graphics clients in midstream. I think if and when we want to switch to Unity 5 or any other graphics client, that'll be kind of a big project that'll be 6 months or more, and it's not something we're going to tackle until after we get to a release date of the game.
So there was another question, I get that staffing is always limited. There's a whole bunch of people out there with IT experience saying, hey, let me be an intern. I'll come work for you. I'll do things. I mean, is that a possibility?
We've looked at that a little bit. We actually were looking at an intern recently. It's not free. We really can't, because of Washington laws, we really can't just not pay you anything. We definitely have to pay you something. And then we have benefits on top of that and everything else. So it's definitely something that's attractive and something we've looked at. But it's not a slam dunk free sort of thing. And from a project point of view, we'd want to make sure that those guys were also getting something useful. If they're taking a cut rate salary, then they should be getting a very clear, project to work on and a carefully managed experience. So they're getting the experience they want out of the process too.
All right. So since you work with the developers and all the other things, how about improving the AI for battle, especially around PvP and some of the things there, and the debate on tab targeting versus other things, and overall improvements there?
Yeah, we're actually this sprint in E7, we're spending a lot of time on targeting improvements. So everything from improving the functionality of the tab targeting to the functionality of click targeting, and there's at least half a dozen kind of big things we've changed about targeting. So I think that'll help an awful lot. That's one of the, I think tab targeting in general is kind of a good example of something we're getting out of this experience of being released so early as a community. We get a lot more direct feedback and about systems like this, which take a lot of time to tune, a lot of time to get to feel exactly right, especially for a PvP game.
Can you give us a couple clues about what improvements we should expect in the targeting? Or, I mean, you were talking in general, but any specifics?
Sorry, hit the wrong key. Yeah, so the click targeting, we are doing a hybrid system by which we do a scan both on down and up, and it's okay for you to hit the target on just the downstroke of the key, so you don't have the current issue where the click has to happen pretty fast in order to catch somebody who's in motion. There were some issues with when you did an automatic target selection because somebody hit you and you don't have a target, that's fine, but that really needs to not interact with the tab order. So the problem was that once that automatic selection happened, then you were basically in the middle of your tab order. If you start tabbing through targets, you don't start at the beginning near your character again. And so that made the tab just unreliable and not something you could do instinctively in the middle of combat and definitely get the answer you wanted. So by making it so that the automatic targeting still happens, but it doesn't interact with the tab order, then you kind of get both behaviors kind of to work a little more naturally. Yeah, lots of tiny little fixes that help things feel better.
Great. And Tink's got a great question. How about the desync issues? Are we going to be able to start working on those? Because some people are in the middle of combat and then that happens and it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the desync has gotten quite a bit better. And with this iteration, with E7, I think it gets better still because a lot of the desync issues come down to server performance, servers bogging down. And we've eliminated another issue with that related to companies. I think we've got the performance side where we want it to be, and so now I think we want to focus just on the desync itself, and probably I would say EE8 there'll be some more focus on that.
So on the forums, there's kind of a lot of debate about what should we do, what shouldn't we do, and there's a lot of debate around dungeons. And I've asked a lot of people about it, and you're the tech guy, and I hear there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, but people are saying, hey, that's kind of MVP. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Dungeons are obviously a huge part of the property. On the flip side, they have always been very problematic for PvP, open world sandbox PvP games. So we're still in the process of looking at several different options for what that would mean. Are you instancing off the dungeons? Is that too exploitable as a way of hiding from PvP action? Are you trying to not instance the dungeons, but then somebody can come in and hijack you in the middle of your play? It's probably something that we would not consider for just the. I understand people that feel it's an MVP feature. I'm not sure that we consider it a super MVP feature for a kind of a fundamentally territory and community-based sandbox game. But it's something we're excited about doing as soon as we can.
I got to push back on you a little bit because I get you on the territory and sandbox game and not being MVP, but for a Pathfinder game, it is. And that's where we're getting a lot of pushback. Yeah,
I hear you. We certainly have people on our team that have the same feeling. But I mean, is it something that was critical to the River Kingdoms experience in Pathfinder? It's certainly critical to an overall Pathfinder experience, but we're kind of focused on one experience and one story we're trying to tell to start with, and then we can branch out and tell more and more stories over time.
By the way, I'm sure that's going to be a long debate later that players will want to debate, because there are many that feel that is part of the Pathfinder experience and it is key to the game. So we'll have to check the forums afterwards on that one.
Sure.
All right. So another question was in there about, are we going to see changes so we see company tags or something like that, so we know what's going on, or alliances?
Yep, that's actually a fix that we're sort of related to targeting, but it's one of the things we're doing for ED7. So you'll see a info window when you target somebody. There's a little info window at the top of the screen, and that gives you the company information on that person.
So we're going to see that in ED7?
Yep, that's fine.
Great. And I got a clarification from Tink. His thing on desyncs was that when you're both moving, it's very hard to target people. You think the targeting changes are going to fix that?
Yeah, the targeting changes are definitely focused on exactly that. We know it's too hard to get somebody who's moving, and so a big part of it is that we're trying to make sure we do a couple of different ray scans in order to try to hit the target, and we'll catch whatever we can catch.
All right, got one more clarification. Now this question was more around melee attacks. Sorry, you still having trouble. But still the same thing?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is melee attacks. He's having the same problem about not being able to click things when they're moving, and the client thinking the person's somewhere else. The distance of melee attacks. There was a discussion about that we have to increase the range for melee attacks, things like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the click to targeting should be okay, but the distance to your melee attacks, that's a good question. We need to do more, probably more interaction between the client and the server in order to make sure that you move up close if necessary and hit the attack off, and that happens kind of regardless on the server side, if your client's a little bit out of date with that target. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think we'll try to make sure that's in the combat queue to get fixed as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. People are saying, hey, sometimes I'm actually almost standing on them and still can't attack them because I see it as standing, but they see something else.
Right. It's always going to be difficult because that guy is somewhere else on the server.
Right, but at that point, then PvP with melee weapons isn't possible.
No, I agree. I guess I'm describing that's why the issue happens. But it's a known issue with MMOs, and there are ways to solve it. In particular, generally, you want the client to express its intent to do that attack, and then on the server side, he can move a little bit if necessary, and then still do the attack.
Oh, okay. So we'll look for more as we move forward on that.
Yeah, that's a great note. I'm trying to make sure I'll move up the priority of that bug fix.
You could possibly consider extending the range of some things like healing spells rather than 3 meters, make it 5 meters or something, so that lag issue is less of a problem.
That probably wouldn't fix it. From the testing I've done, the ranges would need to be so high that they would basically be ranged combat. Like, the desync is so high that you'd have to be able to hit them at 15 meters, which is just too much.
All right, Mark, if you could react to that, but if they have questions, can PM me, that'd be great, just so we don't have a overall discussion.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, Tink, I think was the last person who spoke, is right. It's always going to be the case that you run some amount of distance behind the server, and we want to solve it in a systematic way so it's just reliable and always feels right and works.
So I had a great question, which is, what's the biggest misunderstanding you think the community has about the development process or PFO in general that you might be able to clue us into?
I think it's important to keep in mind a couple of factors. One, we are a niche MMO that's targeting a particular style game, and therefore we're kind of a small team. We're just not the same size as a huge, SOTOR or WoW size team. So we're kind of a small little scrappy company that's trying to do something that's fun. And in order to do that, we have to limit the things we work on and focus on one experience. So we've got that plus the combination of, we are releasing very early, just so that we get more involvement from the community and we get, more feedback, and we can kind of build the game that the community enjoys and build the game around you. So, for better or for worse, those two factors kind of interact a little bit. I think some people, at the same time that people are having a good time in the game, and I think we're all having fun playing the game. We're all developers, and so we're kind of used to seeing what a game looks like at this stage of development. It's just a fact of life that it's super early in development, and this is kind of the state the game's going to be at.
All right, I got to ask you the follow-up question then. Is the game ready to actually charge people for? I mean, we're essentially doing, some people would say, a paid beta or alpha.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a paid beta. And for it, that really depends on you whether you believe that's worth your time. I think for most people, it's more a time investment even than a monetary investment. From our perspective, regardless of the fact of what state of development is, we still have to run, close to 100 servers. We have all the hosting costs. We have, GMs to help people out of holes and things like that in game, and we have customer support issues related to, charging money and just making accounts work, and all this kind of live support stuff just takes money, and we don't. It would be very difficult for us to do that without charging a subscription for the game.
And that's fair. And I mean, I'm putting a lot of time and money into it, so I'm with you. But I had to ask the question.
Oh, sure. So, I mean, again, I think it all comes down to the player and whether they want to be involved in the game at this stage of development. We're having a really good time. I am in no way trying to strong arm anybody into playing the game at this stage of development. It's for people who want to see it and want to see the game kind of built around them. I think it's really fun. But other people would prefer to see the game after it's released. I think that's totally fine too.
So how about fixing a couple of fixed things? I've got notes here. How about fixing what charge? Anything with a charge, movement charge.
Yeah. Charge is a big issue. It's a lot more complicated than it looks like, just because of the interaction between one client, then the server, then the other client, and all three of which are in different time domains, and all three of which have to kind of interact with the feat in a good way. We know it's a big issue. It's also a big increment of work. I'm not sure when it's scheduled for. It's not being worked on just this milestone, but it's kind of at the top of our list of combat things to work on right now. So I would expect it in the next couple of releases.
And how about this spell hanging when you cross a hex? I mean, you graze out and all of that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the status of that one. I don't know. I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, those are just a couple big ones. So this is kind of halfway. We kind of start asking some more fun questions. So Mark, Lisa has Yoda, and Ryan's a deep sea diver, and a few others. What's your cool thing you bring to the group?
I really like robotics, so I never get any time to do this anymore because I am having babies and having a new company, and so it's been crazy. But I usually like to do a lot of research into just computer vision. I have a robot arm at home that I'm teaching to, examine a chessboard on a real-time basis and understand where the pieces are, and then be able to play chess.
So you're playing chess with yourself.
Yeah. I think of it as making contributing to the new overlords of robots.
And what's it like actually working at Goblinworks? Any surprises? I mean, tell us a little about the environment, those type of things.
I'm having a really good time. It's easier for me to say that because, I'm one of the founders of the company. It's a really tight knit group. It's it's a small team the same way it was working on City of Heroes, and so I've got kind of a sentimental feel of a small team that's focused on getting a nice product out. It's been a lot of fun to work with these guys. Just a day-to-day basis, I have a lot of good time, and I just have a good time interacting with everybody.
And what's the biggest surprise we as players have done that surprised you?
Oh, that's a good one. Let me think for a minute. We certainly were hoping that War Towers would last longer than it did. It's definitely disappointing that that has been a big turnoff for the community, and it's understandable. That's why we're definitely super focused on getting holdings and outposts and a much more deep, interesting territory control thing going on. The other stuff, I don't know. The MMO communities are wonderful at times and trolls at times. It's pretty typical. I think it's been a great community overall. I think it's been really nice to see that there's kind of a diehard set of fans that want to see the game succeed and have done just fantastic things in game, trying to work on it with us and build it into the kind of the world it can be.
So let's go back to War Towers. So you were expecting War Towers to be more like what you've seen the past week or so, these battles and wars?
Yeah, definitely. We were hoping it would. It was always going to be a stopgap. Certainly, it's not really that interesting of a PvP gameplay, but we were hoping it would stay active a little more than it did. I think it tapered off pretty fast because it just wasn't interesting enough. It just there wasn't enough meat to it, which is totally understandable. But that's why we're trying to get in some nice holdings and outpost updates and make a much deeper, more interesting game.
So the other thing on War Towers, and this is, I don't know if it's you or somewhere else, Ryan had talked about a while back when there were all the other changes of the towers and what level you can train to. He had talked about it increasing over time, the base level of a PC settlement, while we're still in War Towers. Is that going to happen?
Oh, that's a good question. I think EE9 is when we really switch off War of the Towers in the way it works right now. So, hopefully it'll be E9, maybe it'll be E10, but currently the plan is for E9. The kind of very simplistic towers add X levels to your settlement thing is going to get turned off, and we'll go much closer to the final system where you actually kind of decide what level you want your settlement to be, and that determines how much upkeep you need to feed into the settlement, and you feed that upkeep in. That's upkeep is in goods. You feed that upkeep in with your holdings, and so things interact on a real economic basis. So you could actually not have any holdings and just purchase the upkeep if you could manage to do so and manage to transport it. And the full system starts reflecting the actual way that the game's supposed to work.
So EE9, huh? But so can we get a check back on I love going to go because that's still 6-8 weeks away, and people are going to start hitting 12, and this tower thing's going to get weird.
Yeah, that's fair. Then we'd have to just check and see. Basically, Lee can twiddle that number pretty easily, so I think that's kind of an open question whether we're going to go ahead and twiddle it up by a level or 2 for E8, and then it'll just switch into the new system for E9. I think that would be fair.
And there's a good question. Are we going to be able to set different training for like different levels of buildings, or is it like settlement as a whole?
I think the first version in EE9 will be settlement as a whole, and maybe let you select the style of settlement. And then certainly because E9 is still focused on the kind of full implementation and really nice implementation of holdings and outposts. So that's the focus, and then those feed into the settlement in a more realistic way that reflects the way the file system will be. And then the next things we work on after E9 is then building up the settlements to be just as deep and rich. So the settlements, you'll start choosing on a per building basis what you want to do there, and that will determine, you can push up and down your different buildings, what levels you want, and that'll determine what your upkeep is.
All right, and you mentioned there's a couple words you use in there that I want to catch. Something about kind of picking what type of settlement you want to be, or something along those lines. Is that going to be possible? Can I switch from my fighter cleric away to something else?
Maybe. That's a good question. I think it's certainly a possible feature. I need to look at the full implementation of it, but because you'll start selecting overall what level you want your settlement to be, we may allow you to select the style of settlement at the same time.
Okay, that's going to be an interesting discussion afterwards. That just changes a bit of the dynamics of the overall groups and different things.
Right. Yeah, it'll be much more open, and but again, it'll be closer to what the final game is. No, Lee's going to probably hit me over the head and tell me that this is not possible, but we'll see what he says.
What's the feature you really want that doesn't seem to be possible right now?
Oh, I'm super psyched about settlements in general. Just on building up on a per building basis, deciding what you want your fighter college to be, and deciding what you want your smelter to be at, and in the design documents, we've always talked about the settlement really being a character of itself. It's deep and rich and interesting, and there's a lot that goes into it. I think that whole gameplay is going to be really exciting. So I'm pretty excited about what we're doing with holdings right now. I'm pretty excited about building up the settlements next, and then after that, then I don't know what we're doing next after that.
But it sounded like the actual being able to build up settlements was quite a bit of time away. Is that still the case?
We'll see. I think we, at the same time that we are building all these features, we're trying to make sure we have roughly half the team is working on polish and bug fixes and just generally pushing up the general quality of the client and the user experience. So, that kind of factors into all of our development timelines. I think settlements aren't a huge distance away from holdings because they are all kind of engineered to work together. The holdings and the way the holding buildings work is essentially the same as the way a settlement building works. So I don't think it's going to be a huge amount of time, but it's very hard to narrow down exactly how long it'll be.
That's fair. So that does bring up a question I had, which is settlement banks. What happened to them? They seem to be here.
The settlement banks disappeared? What do you mean?
That multiple companies within a settlement can have a shared bank.
Yes, they should be having a shared bank. Is there an open bug with that? So if you belong to a settlement, you're not seeing the settlement bank anymore?
It was never put in the game.
It was never there, yeah.
That's odd. I guess I didn't realize that. I'll check with the person who's working on that.
And then how about also getting us our tabs back so we can sort the bank?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was only ever 2 tabs for inventory screens. There was just combat and non-combat. But yeah, we've got a design for much more deep, interesting filters. So there's, it's like 3 rows of filters, and I think you're totally right. That's going to be really necessary for dealing with the large numbers of stuff in tabs.
Yeah, we'd even like the tabs back, because what happens is the bank lags out, and you can't even see what you're scrolling through.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to iterate on that.
All right. By the way, anyone else in the crowd, you should send me your PM your questions. I'm just going through as we kind of run through them. So the holdings and all of that's coming out EE7. Can you give us any kind of inside scoops?
About holdings, they look nice. They're cool. The first version of holdings, it's focused on just making sure you can build them. The total functionality of holdings and actually fighting over control of them and letting them participate more in how they interact with settlements and whatnot. That whole process stretches over E7 through EE9. So this first version is fun because you get to see the stuff you build in the game, but that's kind of the focus of EE7.
And will we be able to test those in the test server?
Yeah, definitely. I think that brings up how we're going to test it in the test server. I think as a stopgap, we should, Lisa's going to kill me, but I think as a stopgap, we should try and make sure we, have GM support of some kind and start handing out these kits because, it's not realistic that the kits are actually going to be made on the test server.
Nope, but I'd very happily take one and try it out.
Yeah, so
I won't kill you, Mark.
All right. So the other one, and just this is one of those fun ones. If you could get there, we'd really love to see the trophy for the trophies for the deeds and the recipes for the buildings actually come out before EE7 actually rolls out. But that's probably a pipe dream, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, E7 will be out pretty soon. I think that's fair question. It would be nice to try to stage that stuff out a little bit better. We're kind of a small team, and so what we are trying to do instead is focus on staging out the overall system of holdings over several versions. So, E7 is your opportunity to get in, start making start finding the recipes and make your holdings and things like that. They're not necessary for anybody. They don't factor into your settlement level or anything yet. This is the opportunity to get in and start making them.
You obviously don't understand the people that are stockpiling thousands of piles of hemp to make this happen.
That's awesome.
Well, sorry, Mike. I've been playing an engineer since Alpha when it was useless, so I'm finally happy that engineer's going to have a job.
Very cool. We even have a role for seneschals now.
Yeah, we want to see that back. We also want to see we mentioned this in the last chat, having the feats for the expert and freeholder and others come back in so we can use this for progression even if they don't do anything yet.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little more detailed than I have any direct experience with.
All right, another test server question. I'm not the only one. There are others who have their characters stuck under the world on the test server. Because when you die, you just don't spawn. How do we get those characters back?
I think the issue is that I've seen is people getting stuck off the map. In general, if you file a bug with, send an email to customer support, or file a bug even on a different character in the game, then we can track you down and move you back to a safe location.
There has to be some way to automate that because many of us have sent that in, but I understand it's not a priority. There's people sent multiple notes.
Well, go ahead and submit it if you haven't gotten a response. From what I understand, we fixed everybody. I think there's supposed to be one outstanding person right now. So that's on my queue. I have one outstanding person. Go ahead and submit a bug again if you want to get fixed, and then you'll get on the queue again.
Sorry if we blow up your queue.
Yeah, that's fine. Part of the game.
And I know we let the settlement leaders into the test server, but any ideas about giving them invites to invite some more players in?
Giving who invites?
Give the settlement leaders some invites so they can send more of their people over to actually test it out.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Right now, the basic invites are given mostly to platinum people, but I could certainly see giving them out to settlement leaders as well.
Okay. And if others have questions for Mark, I'm getting towards the end of my list.
Shoo, survived.
Yeah. So, Mark, kind of, what do you see coming in the future? Everybody talks about this board that you have there, and it's on the board, it's not on the board. What's the crystal ball showing?
The crystal ball right now is definitely focused on. We're only really focused on the next, 3 or 4 releases. So we're completely focused on holdings and outposts right now. There's a lot of systems that relate to that. A lot of what we've done even before this point in terms of vaults and player husk and other systems, we're kind of building up to this state. So we're trying to progress and make the territory more control more interesting. At the same time, there's constantly content that's being made. I tend to default to thinking about things in terms of the programming team, which is always the kind of totally new systems. The art team and the design team work constantly on making new content. So they have a new set of villains, of critters that are coming in the game, and I think there's an example of one that's going to be kind of teased in E7. We have a long pipeline of kind of new critters and content that just kind of ships all the time from those teams.
Yeah, that reminds me. The one on the programming side was the poll screen or voting on the way in. Any ETA on that?
Yeah, I think we've just got to get that in. We had tried to sneak it in a couple times and it just didn't make it. I think it's got to make it into the priority list, I think, for E8 probably.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mark. If you want to hang around, if people have questions, I'll open up the channel to the rest of everybody else. But we will end the formal version of this now and open it up to the channel.
Sure, sounds good.
Hey, Mark, have you been following with the Linux tests that were done?
No, I haven't. I saw that they were doing some of that. It's exciting to see that it's working. I haven't gone into detail on those tests at all.
Yeah, it works flawlessly with wine. The only thing that breaks is the patcher. That's the only part that's broken.
Oh, cool. So that's interesting that breaks in wine. Why don't are you involved in the effort, or are you just referring
I actually
to the
was the original tester, and I ended up also making the guide of how to install PFO in Linux and run it.
Okay, awesome. So I think if you have any crash dumps or anything you can submit, definitely send that to customer service and he'll send it on to me. Anything we can do on our side to help smooth out that process would be great. It's going to be very hard for us to do full on Linux support and kind of deal with packaging issues for lots of different distributions and the like. But if we can make it work easier in a for wine and for people that are pretty tech savvy about getting it set up, I'm all for that.
Yeah, because I'm essentially a Linux noob. I got it, running fine out of the box with Linux, so I don't know how to do the cache dump for the wine, unfortunately, so I can't give a hand there. But
okay.
The fact that, I showed the process of how to get it installed means if you can get a Linux machine going at Goblinworks, then you can do in-house tests going like, okay, this is what breaks, run it, do a little tweaks here and there, experiment, and then test it again.
Yeah, we can do that. All of our servers are Linux, so we've got a lot of Linux experience, actually. It's just an issue of the amount of time it takes to try to package up and say that we are fully a Linux-supported client. That's probably out of scope for us right now. But yeah, that sounds great. Go ahead and email us, and we'll just contact you and see if we can help with any particular issues you have. And I'll even look at setting up one of those test machines.
Yeah, because so far it's like Wine emulates it perfectly to Windows, so you don't need to worry about making a native Linux version. You just need to fix the patcher for the Wine connection. Someone said it might be one of the web components in the patcher, but I'm not sure.
All right, so let's go to another question besides Linux, because we can go all night. I know you can Azure on Linux. By the way, I did come up with another question, Mike. Just if you could poke Steven. He was supposed to send out the new recipe list for the holdings and update the Excel, the PFO wiki.
I'm sorry, are you asking me if we're going to update the PFO wiki with the newest recipes?
Yeah, well, can you just poke Steven? He said he was going to do it, but figured you might be able to make it happen.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll just yell at Stephen right here. I'll do that.
All right, other questions for Mark?
Yeah, I had a quick question for you, Mark. For the test server, you mentioned during the interview that you were thinking about copying our data and putting it on the test server. Do you mean like our actual character data, up-to-date data for the live server, and then putting it into the test server?
Yeah, we have no system that would do something like that right now, but that is an option to get more testing on the test server. Would be to allow a button of some kind that says, okay, go ahead and grab the current version of my character from the live server, including all the stuff he has in vaults and things like that, and do a bulk copy of that stuff into the test server, right? That would be a lot. That would be, what we did in City of Heroes. It's what a lot of people do for a lot of different games. The problem for a sandbox game is that you have a lot less testing for any of your kind of big sandbox features because people just don't care. But it's an option of getting to try to get some more participation for right now in the test server.
Have you thought about also maybe copying like the AH and other things of that nature? And just like basically porting all that information in?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. The auction house items don't actually leave your vault right now, so until they get sold. So technically, all that stuff is still in your vault. It's just hidden from you.
Okay.
But still, to your point, I mean, in theory, what we could do is kind of unown all of those things and just have them end up belonging to NPCs, but then populate the auction house with a full copy of the things that were on live. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Because I know that you wanted to simulate the economy, and that would be somewhat of a decent way to simulate it on the test server.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that.
As for the writs that was talked about, we haven't gotten exact confirmation on this, but it talked about having 6 writs from certain escalations and up to 18 writs from other escalations. Do you have like a definite answer on that? Like what escalations potentially give what writs?
I don't right now. I think we will probably make sure that is. I'll make a note and make sure that gets into the release notes. So as soon as we deploy to Zog, that's out there, and people can start making some more plans. I don't think we're deploying to Zog tomorrow. It's probably going to be Friday, or even Saturday. Yeah, I think that's something we can probably put in the release notes.
And who's going to get them in the party that gets the kill? Some random dude? Your company, just in general?
Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything special. I think it's the normal loot system. So it's based upon probably a random selection of anybody who's done damage to that critter.
Okay. But someone in the party that gets the killing blow will get all the writs? Or we just don't know yet?
Oh, if it's dropping lots of writs, then it'll tend to spread it out.
Okay.
I don't think we're doing anything different for that versus any normal looting action. They're being looted like any other item in the game.
Let's see. I believe Steven made it seem like they were actually the expendables. They separated out to each of the individuals inside the party that got the killing blow on the boss. Has that changed?
So you're saying that they come in a big stack and then they get separated kind of evenly among the party members? That would be pretty normal, sure.
Okay. Do you happen to have the amounts needed for, say, +3 writs? And actually, this is a good question leading into this. The refining for like +1, +2, +3 writs, will they Will they be similar to how refining actually works now, and you can get +4 and potentially +5 writs as well?
Yeah, it'll be the same refining system, and then then you can construct the kits with a pretty standard crafting system. The I believe it's public that the way the kits work is, you can have a +0 to a +5 kit, in that you'll use that to erect your holding, right? So say you're making a lumber mill, you've got a +3 lumber mill kit, and you erect a lumber mill with that kit. That lumber mill is then it's limited to its max upgrade is 3. So if you can upgrade the lumber mill a couple times. It'll show up as a +0 out of 3 lumber mill to start with, and then you can bump it up to a +3 out of 3 lumber mill, but you won't be able to bump it up to a +5 or +5 lumber mill because you didn't use that kit.
Oh,
And
okay.
then,
So
Is that ever? Like, will we never be able to upgrade it past 3, or will we have some system to increase?
we don't have it yet, but we're talking about allowing you to upgrade the base by coming along later with a +5 lumber mill kit, and then doing construct action, and that would upgrade the base of that lumber mill.
So wait, so let me get this straight. So we create a +3, but the building actually builds at a +0. Then we'll need another kit to create like a +1, and then like kind of lay it on top of the other one.
So the building, you use a +3 kit, and that makes a building whose max upgrade is 3. And the building itself, the upgrade for the building itself is completely separate. You don't have to keep submitting more kits.
That's what influence, right?
You actually do the upgrade action on the building. Having said this, EE7 you can't upgrade your building. It'll be EE8 before you can upgrade your buildings. But you'll do an upgrade action on the building. I believe it's going to take resources. I don't know the details of exactly what it's going to take, but you'll do an upgrade action on your building to take it from 0 to 1, and then you'll do another one to take it from 1 to 2, and another one to take it from 2 to 3, and each of these will probably be only allowed once per server day.
So,
Right.
the way Steven had made it seem on top of that is that if we had a +3 kit, it did something mechanically better, like some kind of something more than just being able to upgrade it to a level 3 building. Is there anything tacked onto that, or is that it? Like, you make a +3 kit, and the only thing special about it is that it can be upgraded to level 3 later on.
Yeah, that's it. The kit is just determining the max level of that holding, and if you want to take the territory quickly, you may want to just use a base kit that's a 0 or a 1 kit. Set up those holdings, and then you can upgrade it again later. As your holdings are better level, that's the actual upgrades on the real holding. As you upgrade those things, that's where you get all the mechanical advantages. So everything from more guards to more materials that come out of the hex to there's a lot of different to better training. There's a lot of different factors that get enhanced every time you upgrade that holding.
Now with the outpost, is that basically the same system? If you have a +3 outpost, okay.
Yeah. The outposts, they tend to upgrade more just what resources they're generating, but it is essentially mechanically it's the same system, and in fact, basically the designers can scale whatever they want to on the outposts.
Okay, I've got a question about outposts and holdings. So we're gonna have outposts in relatively soon, but we won't be able. Like, how long is it going to be before we're able to remove them? Because as it stands right now, you can just have some random dude running through and throwing down holdings at will wherever he wants, and there's nothing that anyone else can do about them.
Sure, that's true. The holdings all take influence, though, so it's going to be a very rare company that can dump more than a few holdings on the map.
Well, it's more of an opportunity. Like, so say I can put down 3 holdings. If I don't care about bulk resources, I can just run down to somewhere and put 3 holdings down in very strategic spots that I know other people want to put them in, and there's nothing that they can do to stop me right now for the foreseeable future. Is there a timeline on when we'll actually be able to remove hostile buildings like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be able to fight over holdings in EE9 at the latest, and I'm not sure you may be able to fight over them in EE8. So it will be a deeper, more interesting fight than the towers. Maybe not a lot deeper, but you'll be able to fight over those holdings and take them over.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I actually have another one about. It's kind of a follow-on. Will it be easier or harder to take a higher plus level of holding? Like if it's a +3 holding or a level 3 holding, will it be easier to take a level 0 holding?
Yeah. So right now we haven't actually done a lot of testing on the capture mechanics. So this is all something that could change. But right now there will be a phase even before you do the normal, even before you do the capture mechanic itself, you will have to defeat all the guards that are around a holding or an outpost that you're fighting over. And the number of guards and the speed at which they respawn and how they surge together, all of that changes with the upgrade level of the holding, including because of mechanically how they spawn, there's going to be a guaranteed minimum time. Again, these numbers are a little bit up for a change, but even at the weakest, the minimum time it'll take to fight to kill the guards, just because they won't spawn faster than this, it will be 5 minutes. And then as you upgrade your holding or your outpost, they'll get more guards and more respawns that they're allowed to do. And that minimum time, if you nuked the guards as soon as they appear, that minimum time scales up, I believe, to around 10 minutes. So that amount of time is guaranteed to be there even before you get to any other part of the capture mechanics. That's kind of the primary thing that's scaling with the level of your holding and outpost right now.
So okay, so with that question, so you're saying that that during that time, the guards will respawn during that 5 and 10 minutes?
It will be a minimum of that, just because basically the way it'll work is, say you'll have a well of 50 guard respawns guaranteed, and the guards won't respawn faster than 10 per minute. So in order to start the capture game at all, the attackers have to kill all the guards. So if they take an hour to kill all the guards, that's how long they take to kill the guards. It's not that it's a maximum of 5 minutes, a minimum of 5 minutes, because they won't even spawn faster than that. They do have to kill all the guards before they can even start the capture mechanics.
So the initial phase is potentially extremely resource consuming for a group of people to take a holding, just to initiate the phase there.
Yeah, we need the defenders to have time to get to the conflict. We need to alert them that somebody is killing their guards. They need to have time to get there, and that buffer time is going to be essentially the time it takes to kill the guards. If you don't have a sophisticated and kind of coordinated attacker group, you could take an extremely long time to kill the guards, and that would just not be very good strategy. But at a minimum, even if you can nuke the guards at all times, just because how mechanically the respawns work, we guarantee it'll be a certain amount of time that the defenders have in order to get to the location and start defending their tower.
Are these guards going to have a minimum level? Like how's that going to work? Are they going to be like Thorn guards, or?
I believe they start weaker than Thorn guards. There has been some discussion of scaling them a little bit with the level of the tower, but I think that's all something that needs to be tuned a little bit more.
Is there anywhere on the level of Thorn guard no one will ever take a holding ever?
Right. Yeah, they can't be crazy strong.
Well, now here's a really good question: are these things going to scale as the higher the population grows? Because right now, the largest group can field 20 to 40 people as a settlement, and to go and take somebody's, tower when there's 10, 15, 20,000 people on the server. I mean, it might be, or I shouldn't say tower, but holding. It seems like it's going to be much easier with much higher population.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we want to tune things to kind of make sense for the population we have right now and make sure that the game is fun. I think you're right. I think we will end up scaling up the difficulty and things like that, and time basis and the number of points it takes to take a tower as the raiding parties just kind of naturally get bigger. But right now we're really targeting that raiding size of 10 to 15 players.
Okay, fair enough.
Not trying to sound mean, but there's maybe 3 groups that can muster 10 to 15 people on a given night.
Well,
maybe.
Then it certainly should be doable with smaller groups. You're just going to, obviously have a challenge if the defenders come along and then start nuking you in return.
Fair enough.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, it's more intended as a stopgap to let the actual defenders appear.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with the towers right now is that it's just for various mechanical reasons, there's not really a lot of PvP that goes on.
Is there any plans to balance the damage output from the different classes? Like I've got a cleric with a battle focus who does way more damage than a first level fighter.
Wait, really?
Really?
Way less damage.
There you go.
He's Australian. Everything's backwards.
Yeah, I'm upside down.
Right, upside down. Yeah. Yes. We're still in the phase of making kind of big mechanical changes. So, especially at this release, EE7, we have a lot of fixes to how rogues work and how we want to make sure all the sneak attack stuff interacts correctly. I think clerics still need some love. That's probably the next version or two. There's a lot of underpinnings that we kind of need to cover. At the same time, we're trying to make sure it's sort of balanced, but we need to make sure that the basic mechanics are working and working the way we intend, and then it's easier to balance the numbers.
In regard to the cleric fighter thing, fighters only really bring damage. Clerics bring so much other stuff. Do they need? If they're on equal damage with fighters, why would I ever ring a fighter?
Yeah, it's more of a equal utility more than anything.
I think that's totally true. There's always going to be roles in the company that are more tailored to support. I think especially as the game matures and we add more classes, then we can even stretch these things farther. So, there's just going to be more of an archetypical role of, you're kind of fundamentally a support class. You're just not going to stand toe-to-toe with the amount of damage, but the multiplier effect of you being able to support, 4 or 5 players can make you very, very effective in a group.
Unless you happen to be a cleric of Gorum, then you kill everything. Because damn, was great sword attack.
That's by design.
Yeah, but again, that's getting back to the sword rather than the battle focus.
Well, I mean, swords can't give me favored or make me run real fast.
All right, so I do need to make one quick announcement. Some people, we're technically over the time for the class. There's going to be a group doing escalations in Classroom 1 if anyone's interested in killing things around Riverbank. And next week's talk will be Lee. Mark, you're welcome to stick around, but I also don't want to drain you of time if you need to go.
Cool, thanks. I may try to stick around for just a few more minutes. I have to get home and feed my kids and do a lot of stuff, but I'll stick around for a few more minutes.
Other questions for Mark?
You were explaining the process in which to take a holding, and you said that you had the stopgap there about the guards and everything. Can you explain a little bit more about how we will be taking holdings, or at least the general concept?
I think so again, we haven't done enough testing about this yet, but I think the guards are the first part about lengthening the minimum amount of time it takes to take the holding and giving the defenders some time to get there. So that's probably the most critical improvement over War of the Towers. Then once you get over that hurdle, the current thought is to kind of force you to to burn down or damage the outpost in one server day, and then come after the holding the next server day. So there would be, kind of a more clear, like you have a full day. It still only takes you 2 days to take a hex. But the defenders again kind of have a very clear server day time to rally the forces and make sure they can really try to defend their holding the next day. The thing about holdings is that you're going to be investing a lot more resources in them than were ever invested in the towers. So the towers you had to take, but you didn't invest a lot of like building the towers and upgrading them and things like that. So we don't want the holdings and outposts to feel like they're just getting flipped over without a fight.
So essentially, I mean, this sort of goes into sieging someone technically without actually the siege mechanics really being there. I mean, you have to go in and I mean, if someone has 16 holdings, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a month or, to take these holdings from them, right?
Oh, no. I don't believe that's the case. I think you could take all of the outposts in the different hexes, and then the following. In theory, they had 16 holdings with 16 outposts sitting next to them. There's only one holding per hex. So in theory, on one day you could burn all of the outposts, and then the next server day you could burn all of the holdings.
Okay, I see what you're saying there. Okay.
How many
But
outposts
on a per hex basis, it takes 2 days.
But how many outposts? You can only have 2 outposts per hex, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you can burn. The current design is you could burn both of them at the same time.
I have a question that's a little bit off of that. No, actually not at all off of that. So, in my mind, the respawn mechanics that we have right now are the single most detrimental piece of the game. Like, I think it ruins. Basically, I think the towers are so lackluster because of the respawn mechanics. Is there a timeline on them not being so terrible? Because right now you basically just spawn like right next to the fight, and you're right back into the fight, and it feels like there's no real reason to actually kill people.
Right. Yeah, that will definitely change. The spawn points that are directly there will definitely change, and we've got a couple ideas for how to improve those. Separately, we also kind of overall want to give you more respawn options and spend some time trying to make sure that there aren't so many weird traps of getting respawned somewhere and then getting killed immediately. That I'd like to get that feature also worked on as soon as possible, but I don't have a particular timeline of when that's going to come in. But I agree with you. I mean, I think the respawn needs a lot of work.
All right, how about one last question for Mark, and then we'll let him go have a life, and actually tell Steven to get us the recipes, or the copies of the Excel sheet.
Yeah.
So you said about the tabs, because this is kind of important for a lot of people. The tabs that we had, I think Firewind says something along the lines that we had 3 different tabs with like 9 different subcategories. You said there's something planned that's more robust than that. Like, what is your plans for that, and when will you roll those out? Because the tabs currently, as they stand, are extremely difficult to work with, and not really having them.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I think the general plan is to have a set of top category tabs, a set of subcategories underneath those, and then a bunch of filters underneath that. So then you can filter based on different random characteristics of what you're looking at. Yeah, I mean, I think all that is pretty necessary to deal with these very, very huge vaults that have thousands of items in them.
Yeah, and there was one last question we really got to get to is chat channels. Tink, did you want to ask that one?
Yeah, so in alpha, like the chat channel system was really fairly nice. It wasn't great, but it was better than we have now. What happened to that?
That's a good question. What do you mean?
Well, I'm fairly sure in alpha we used to be able to create our own channels, didn't we, and join them? I seem to remember that being a thing. And we can't anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think the issue there was just that we you could do that, but it was kind of a by hand thing, and it didn't. I believe the UI support was very, very poor, and we would like to get that back, but we need the UI support to be better for it.
Does it have to? Because I wouldn't mind just having to type /create channel and /join channel. That was really, really nice.
Okay, I'll bug the programmer and ask him about that.
Yeah, I think it was funny because there's a lot of discussion of we want this feature from alpha back. Like, for example, being able to log into 2 characters in one account at the same time. And chat and others.
Right. Yeah, hopefully we don't have too many regressions. I mean, the logging into 2 characters at a time, that's more of a business decision of, wanting to tie subscriptions with accounts very strongly. The chat stuff we should definitely look at. We definitely don't want to have regressions versus alpha, but I can't think of a whole lot of regressions we've really had.
No, I think the chat system's primary.
On the chat system, do you know if settlement chat will be in sooner rather than later?
That's a good question. I will.
And one more question on chat. Is there any way to get help to show up in the chat general channel if you've joined it?
No, Hoffman, that was one question already.
Fine.
This is like the 7th question after that one question.
Right. I mean, in general, we really want to switch to more of a normal chat system in which you can set filters per window and have a huge number of channels that you belong to and things like that. But we just need a lot of UI work to make it work more like the normal MMO system. So, I mean, it's just an increment of work we need to schedule and get done as soon as possible.
All right, we really got to let Mark go. Well, thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming out. And everybody's welcome to hang around the channel, and the after chats have been just as interesting as the actual Keepside chats some days.
Cool. Thanks for hosting. I really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome, and we definitely want to keep making cool stuff for you.
Yeah, thanks for everybody coming out.
Thanks for showing up. This is awesome.
And next week's Lee, so.
Yeah, I told Lee he's going to come because you guys all have had some time to work on the test server on EE7 and probably have a shitload of questions about things you see there. So, and since it's going out the next day on live, hopefully, so I figured Lee would be a good one to answer those questions.
Hey, Lisa, will we get the patch notes tomorrow for sure?
Ask Mark. Mark's the one that pushes that stuff live.
Hey, Mark, can we get the patch notes now?
Oh, that's a good question. We usually try to sync that with pushing the actual patch. I could talk to the guys about pushing the patch notes earlier than that.
We would love to see those in advance if at all possible.
Sooner the better.
I mean, if you could have it in like 15 minutes, I think we'd be all fine with that.
Cool. Sounds good.
That'll happen.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Night, guys.
Lisa should have an option of where we can just like pay them money to hurry up and put a blog out.
God, no. They already have enough of my money.
I know. I would go broke.
Yeah, I actually don't want to comprehend how much money you've spent on the game. You have way too many accounts.
How many months do you have on all of your accounts, Cheeto?
How many months?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
The rest of forever.
I mean Cheeto has something like 60 accounts, right?
I have
what it seems like
I have
sometimes.
over 80 months.
Not even I know how many characters he has.
I have over 80 months of time right now.
You need a wife or a girlfriend or something.
I said that a long time ago.
It's so complicated.
I know, right?
He once said he had a friend who was a girl. I didn't believe him, though.
God.
People in your guild don't count.
Oh.
No, I mean,
Do I not count?
I swore off having a relationship for a while, and then a while kind of turned into like 2.5 years.
Well, women are the devil.
He had to marry his true mistress, food.
Oh.
Bacon. Holy crap.
Every time I come into Rumble, I swear Cheadle's talking about food or talking about how he's been injured by.
Well, hey, look, I mean, I get burnt a lot, and, you know, I got a jalapeno stuck in my ear one time. I mean, things happen.
I don't know what kind of cooking you do.
So it just became interesting that the buildings we build will top out what we can actually build them into. You really have to build them into +3 or +4 buildings if at all possible.
Well, they did mention that later in the game you'll be able to add a new kit at a higher plus level to increase the base plus level. So you're not stuck. And I mean, at the very least, you can just knock down the original building and put up a new one.
Here's sort of, it's not necessarily an issue, but here's what I took from the meeting with Steven, is that we specifically asked the question that was answered tonight, that, you know, will you have to have higher plus kits to upgrade your buildings? And it seems like he implied that that was not the case, and in fact that you get some kind of bonus for having pluses on buildings.
Well, that's kind of what we just got, wasn't it? You have a bonus.
Well, it's also realistic. I mean, we're talking about weeks later, and the build is real now. So, and he said don't.
Well, he said that, you know, the basically you get nothing for it other than the higher plus allows you to upgrade into to basically upgrade the holding,
which is everything.
Mechanical advantage.
Well,
it just means that there's no inherent mechanical advantage. You
That's
still
what I'm
need the
saying,
resources to upgrade.
That's what I'm saying. Like it seems like there was an inherent bonus from having a +3 instead of it just.
There is. You can upgrade, which gives you a mechanical advantage.
That's an inherent bonus.
Okay. What I mean specifically is.
We know what you mean.
Well.
No, I think we know what you mean. You think that just because it's plus, well, I don't mean to say just because, but because it is +3, that it should be better just baseline than a +0.
I'm not necessarily saying I believe it. It's just that was what was implied heavily.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. But it does mean that +4s and +5 are going to be. Well, I don't know if they're going to be very rare, but they're going to be rarer.
Well, it means they'll be the target. Like everyone will be going for them in general.
Yeah.
So what you'll need is my high-level engineer to make them for you, and I'm ready.
Shoot, we're getting our own.
All you're allowed to make are rogue kits.
Ever. Rogue kits and shields. Rogue kits don't even sell.
You've made like what, one shield maybe?
You're selling them for what? 25 silver each? 20 silver each?
I'll put whatever price. That was actually just what Candace's math equation thingamabobber came up with.
Yeah, no one's going to pay that much for anything. Or at least they shouldn't.
No. Well, I mean, I might pay that much for armor, but I'm not going to pay that much for an expendable doodad.
I would pay a lot more than that for a recipe. Just the right one.
A recipe, that's different. That's special.
Yeah, that's different.
You get the recipe forever.
I would include it under anything then.
Okay. Things that run out.
Consumable.
You know, Firewind. I have to say that
or non-renewable is probably better.
I have to say the deal that you made for like 1 gold piece earlier, I think it was a pretty good deal.
Of course it was. I tried to explain that to you.
We should have asked him when you'll be able to actually fucking withdraw Abadar credits again.
Oh, that would have been nice. Yes, being able to give people money would be quite nice.
Is it even causing you an issue?
Yes.
Yes. Unlike TEO, we have to do some of our trading out of settlement.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
Well, it's causing us an issue too, Firewind. We can't pay people.
I mean, we can just keep the logs and pay them after, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Not a lot of people are willing to do that with us. For some reason.
What we mean specifically is people are paid for doing escalations.
Oh god, don't let my members hear you say that. I just force them to do it.
Paid for escalations, you say?
Shut up, Cheadle.
Yes, they get paid per hour for escalations.
Are you hiring?
We could be.
Of course, they turn everything in that they get too, don't they?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay,
there
we
you
get
go.
to keep some stuff.
We don't?
No, basically the only thing that people turn in escalations. I mean, some people turn in everything, but the main things they just turn in is like recipes or expendables, unless they can use the expendables. But most people just turn in everything.
Yep. Can't wait for the patch notes tomorrow. Hey, Cheeto, did you talk to Duffy about chat show shenaniganry?
About
Someone
which
talked to
one?
Duffy. Duffy, did you speak to him? Someone spoke to Duffy.
About what again?
About the talk show thing that I was thinking about.
Oh, the talk show thing. I spoke briefly with him. I mean, he wants to. Wants to do one.
He just PM'd me, so I was just wondering if you'd spoken to him or someone else had.
Oh no. I know he wants to get let's see. I think it's one person from the Empire, one person from the EBA, and another person from the High Road Covenant, and then just have that, like a podcast type thing. I'm not even sure about the format exactly.